Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In our tonight's edition, we're going to be discussing the progressives of Liberia, the pros and cons, people that agree with the progressive and people that not so much agree with the progressive. We're going to be discussing that. So our topic, the progressive of Liberia or the progressive movement of Liberia. We're going to be debating the pros and cons. It's a debate night tonight. Welcome to Debate Friday. We want to welcome all our viewers across the globe. And debating tonight, we'll have Mr. Manju Freeman, who is representing the progressive. He is a progressive, and he's going to be debating on the pro side of the progressive. Mr. Freeman, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Dennis, and glad to welcome my brother from the other side, and I hope our discussions are fruitful.
Thank you so much. Also joining us from the state of Virginia is Dr. Camah Mulabah. He is going to be debating on the con side. He finds some issues with the progressive, and we're going to be debating that tonight. Dr. Mulabah, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, and I'm here. Happy to see you and my brother Freeman. So yes, we are here to discuss what we feel about the progressives. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much, and we want to welcome you for the first time on Focus on Liberia. Just take 30 minutes or a minute to just tell my viewing audience who is Dr. Mulabah.
Okay, I'm from Kwadu Boni district. I was born in Sakwanedu, and my town is called Mabiwanedu. So I'm here. In brief, I started my elementary school in demonstration school, and then I went on to Single Junior High, a government school. Then I went high school, College of West Africa, and the University of Liberia, where I studied engineering. Migrated to the US, got my master's in computer science with emphasis on software engineering, and I recently earned my doctorate in computer science. Data analytics is my specialty, and I'm happy to be here in a nutshell. Well, I was just junior student at the College of West Africa when the progressive began. But tonight, I want to say that I believe that the progressives of Liberia misled our generation. And that's what I'm going to be speaking tonight. And that's about it. If you want additional information, I can give on that. On myself, yes.
Thank you. Were you a member of any political party that time or now?
I was never, and I have never been. So, but I was aware of what was going on. I was aware of the progressives. I was aware of the student movement, the University of Liberia. From 1974 all the way, I was aware of what's going on, but I was never a member of any of those movements.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, Mr. Manju Freeman, just something brief about yourself, especially your ties with the progressive or your participation in the progressive movement.
My name is Manju Freeman. I am from Grand Camah County. I was born in Monrovia, and my family is mainly from the Tiwa district. In fact, all over Cape Mount, our main town is called Camah, Liberia, not Camah, Sierra Leone, Camah, Liberia. And I'm a graduate of the Elizabeth Tubman Memorial Institute, ETMI. I'm also a graduate of the Cardinal University College, where I studied chemistry. I work in this country as a polymer and environmental chemist. And I live in Southfield, Michigan. I have also a Six Sigma Black Belt from Lawrence Technological University and a statistical process control engineer from the University of Michigan.
Thank you so much. What about your progressive credentials?
With my progressive credentials, I can say preceded my time of birth because I go back to my great grand uncle Netishia Bramel in 1955, and some other that were before him, and I can go back to my uncle Henry B. Fumbler Senior, his time in incarceration and beatings in Liberia. And I started with myself back from 1973 onward till now, being a member of the Moja, the LPP, and just generally progressive movements that have made a difference in Liberia. And, unfortunately, my brother does not think so, that the difference that they made were not positive, but that's why we're here to deliberate and he can educate me and I him. So that's what we're looking forward to.
Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to Focus on Liberia, where we are having a debate on the progressive movement of Liberia. My guest, Mr. Manju Freeman, he's a progressive, and Dr. Camah Mulabah from Kwanu in Lofa County. He is not loving the progressive that much. And so let's begin by saying, let me start with you, Dr. Mulabah. What is your general statement towards the progressive or describing the progressive? What will you say?
My general statement is that I believe that the progressives of Liberia misled our generation, as I said before. And you see, I'm a data scientist, and I always prefer for the data to speak for itself. When you have information pertaining to a particular situation based on data, you need to reveal whatever the data is saying and let the people make the decision themselves. So my focus here tonight is to look at the progressive and the data analytic and decision that was arrived at. And so I'm not after any particular person, but my interest has been in data analytics and letting the data speak, because data speaks everywhere. It doesn't have to speak in politics. It speaks in medicine. It speaks in finance. Everywhere you look, people depend on data. And if you massage the data and give the information you want for people to hear so they react the way you want to, then that's misleading for me. So that's why I'm here tonight. So if you want me to go into details, I can.
Thank you. We'll come back to you. Let me hear from Mr. Manju Freeman. He is a progressive. And what's your general statement describing the progressive?
I respect math as a chemist, and I'm also into statistics and doing Six Sigma black belt. But unfortunately, human dynamics is not mathematics. Because if you're 5'7" and I'm 5'7", and both of us weigh 150, does not mean we have the same kind of brain power nor the same thinking abilities along certain lines. We are different, and that is where human strength lies. The Bible even tells us that. And so I respect statistics, I respect data, the information that it puts forth. I use it in my everyday works, but I do respect that the human differences are part of what we are, and that is innate, not just to us, even animals. Other animals do the same. So that's where I think we might have a little bit of diversion.
So what do you make of the progressive?
The progressives were people who saw where the markers were set in Liberia, and we made an effort. And that's all we are asked to do, to make an effort to move that marker. Unfortunately, not many Liberians saw it at the time. There were many who chose to remain sidelined because they say, yeah, leave the people thing alone. There were many who chose to be on the sideline because they were part of the system. There were many who chose to remain on the sideline because they were just deathly afraid of anything that had government attached to it. And so the few of us that dared to venture out there were looked upon as troublemakers, radicals, and etc. And when I look at radicals in chemistry, they are responsible for a lot of changes and a lot of the things that we have that we enjoy in our lives today. That's my chemical look at radicals.
Thank you so much. Let me go back to Dr. Camah and say the progressive misled the people Tell us how and why.
Yeah, I'm very happy that my brother is into data, and it makes it easier for me to communicate here. The thing is, let's look at the rice riot. Some people call it the rice demonstration. But again, a rose is a rose. It doesn't matter what you call it, it smells sweet. So the nomenclature is not what you give it, it's what it actually is. So now, in 1979, before the riot or the demonstration, as you call it, we were told that they're going to raise the price of rice from 22 to 26, a delta of $4. And the main reason that was being preached out there was the minister of agriculture then, and the president Tubble had a large rice farm, and so it increased the price of the rice, and then it would dissuade people to buy country rice, and then they were going to be the main beneficiary. Okay, that was one part of it. If you're going to report on data, you need to report the entire information in the data set. You don't use one part to persuade people to act another way. The other part that the progressive did not say, and I didn't hear, was that the intention of the government at the time was to encourage, it was an added inducement for our rural farmers to make more rice farms. So while it was subsistence cash, they also had to do cash crop. So they will be encouraged to make more farms and make more money. And then the price of the rice were going to compete with the Pusawa. And then people will say, oh, okay, if I can get this, then I need to buy this. So like it was leading Liberia on a path of self-sufficiency in rice production. But that part of the information was not given. When the rally was called, that was hidden from us. So then you need to give the people all the information, let them decide whether they will come out or not. But if you massage the data, we call that in data analytic bias. You know the information, but you had a part and gave another part so your investors, stakeholder can behave the way you want it to behave. That's one difference I have. I have another one, but I'll break here. Thank you.
Let me answer to that. First of all, the Liberian people knew what was happening in Liberia by the amount of rice that they had on their tables. And they saw that they had to wait for rice to come to the free port of Monrovia. And the rice that was there was the rice that had been rejected by here when they washed out and took out, for example, the parboiled Uncle Ben's rice. The refuse from there that was fed to hogs and etc. were the ones that were sent to Liberia. Very dirty, full of blackhead and etc. And the government of Liberia knew what had happened with the shortage of rice in Liberia. You can wait, if you were in there, you can testify to the fact that people were lined up from store to store looking for rice. Now let's go to where the government of Liberia decided to put the price of rice up. They decided that they were going to take away the subsidy that they were subsidizing Liberian foods and the rice especially. And that it didn't take it from 26 to 30 to 30 or 22 to 26. It took it about $30 in some places. And that was quite a big jump. There were people in Liberia making $50 a month. Now imagine taking $25, $30 of it and paying for one bag of rice. Okay? Now you said the progressives. It was actually the Progressive Alliance of Liberia, PAL. The Moja was not in agreement with that, the April 14th strike in 1979. Let me clarify that for you. Maybe you didn't know that as a background. That's nothing against you. You didn't know it. The Progressive Alliance of Liberia and the Moja had huge differences and arguments over calling a strike on April 14 of 1979 in Liberia. They almost came to fistfights at a meeting in West Point because we asked them not to, and I'm talking from the Moja side. We asked them not to put on that because we felt that Liberia was not ready for that. But they had come from the United States and had seen protestations in here, and they felt that protestations would work. But not one progressive fired a bullet. Now one progressive went out and started beating other people in the streets. So when you blame the progressives for calling this, why not blame the government for shooting at people to the extent that 276 people were killed, even though the government announced officially that there were 5 to 6 people that were killed and many more that were injured and many people placed in imprisonment. Mostly Moja members, even though Moja had disagreed with the Progressive Alliance of Liberia when it came to that.
Mr. Mulabah, if you don't,
Yeah, I want to respond to that. Thank you, but I know the difference between Moja and Power, and I know the leader of Power, and I'm not going to call name here. Okay, I'm so happy that you gave us some numbers over there, some data and things. Did you make any survey? Did you have any statistics? Did you have any data to convince people? Did you make any research to tell us all those things you were telling us?
Yeah, many of these things we were aware. We were in West Point, we're in Yucatan, we're on the Oro, we were in other parts of Liberia.
Awareness is not data. Did you make any research to tell the people the $30, the Pusara was dirty, this and that? Don't do that. Did you have any statistics or any data on your?
Do you have to provide statistics for the people? You were in Liberia at that time. The Pusara that you were eating, was it clean Pusara?
Yes.
It was clean?
Yes.
Yeah, also different. Maybe at your area it was different.
You see, I said yes because you telling me you didn't have to do any kind of study before you inform.
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, before you inform people to take that kind of action, mass action, you need to have enough data to convince people. You didn't do anything. Did you go from Douala and anything to do survey? No.
What was the data that Liberia government gave us for moving the rice price from near $20 to near $30? What data was given? Do you know?
You should ask them before taking action.
No,
you need to ask. You need to question the source of the data. No, you need to question the source of the data. You don't just throw things and grab. You put throwing out numbers out there. I got another second point.
No,
this one.
I don't want that. That's
no. We're not finished with this.
Hold on, Mr. Freeman. Go ahead and your thought, or if you have a question.
Yeah. No, let me just finish. What I'm saying here tonight, we need to talk facts based on data we gather.
Okay.
You could never gather any data, but you give us some information. You hit some, and people acted on those information. That's my point here. Thank you.
I'm not disagreeing with your point that people need data for the thing over there. Unfortunately, you are speaking about a group of people who at that time data meant nothing except the monies that were coming out of their pockets to buy their rice. That was the data that Liberian people had. The rice was $30 a bag. What data do you need? You make $50 a month, you got $20 after you've done this. The people saw the direct action. When you see direct action of what is happening, you can't go and be abstract. The Liberian government did not put the price of rice up because they wanted to increase farming. The farming basket of Liberia was lofa, bung, nimba, and somewhere Grand Julia, Grand Julia was in there. That was the feeding basket of Liberia. Bung County then was the largest producing rice company. Who was the largest buyer of rice in Liberia at the time? Do you know who was of Liberian rice?
You have the data. Tell me.
The buyer of Liberian rice at the time was President Talbot. He bought most of the rice, and some of that rice was imported. Exported to Europe, to Spain, because the value of that rice in terms of nutritional content was pretty good, especially the red rice, and people loved it. It was different. It was sent to these countries. It was not that y'all grow more rice and then we'll eat more. No, if we wanted to do that. The problem goes further back than Talbot. It goes back to when Firestone came to Liberia and they took away more than 1 million acres of fertile land that was part of Big Bear Basket, Liberia, and made it into a rubber farm. Okay? And then took seedlings, gave it to all of the government officials, and they planted their big rubber farms, forcibly taking away. It didn't happen as much in Lofa as it happened in Bong, in Maserado, and Bassa County, or Margibi. They took those people's lands away. The good bread basket Liberia, and they started to plant rubber. Cash crops. We talk about cash crops. What cash crop? We grew rubber. We didn't make one bicycle tire in Liberia. We didn't make one eraser in Liberia. We were dealing with things that we didn't have control over. Nobody need to come and tell you and give you statistics. Nobody will tell you, say, oh, the sun hot, so get out of the sun. When you're standing in the sun, you feel the heat of the sun. You don't need statistics for that.
Thank you. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Freeman, and I'll have a question for you too, also, Mr.
Yeah, I just want to quickly react to that before I do
yeah. Oh, just write that down. I want to ask Mr. Freeman a question before we go further.
Yeah.
Mr. Freeman, you talk about the difference between PAL and Moja and the disagreement concerning the 1979 rice demonstration.
Yes.
Do you, as of today, do you still have that disagreement that there shouldn't have been a demonstration?
Yes, I'm still of that opinion that we should not have had a demonstration. Liberian people were not used to that kind of expression. And we also did think that there will be some elements that would take advantage of it. Exactly what we're experiencing, that some elements are going to take advantage of it and maybe loot. But we never put in our calculus that the Liberian government was going to open fire on the citizens that were marching.
So as a progressive,
there's no excuse for that. There's no statistics that allows that to come into Liberia, where you there started shooting up your people. And I think Mr. Mulabah himself can agree with that. Nothing happened that day. When they started shooting, that's when the riot broke up.
Yeah. All right. So as of today, you think the 1979 rice demonstration was a bad idea?
It was an idea that was not, that at that time was not feasible. And I agree with Dr. Mulabah now. We needed more education for the people, which the Moja was trying to do. And I think I spoke of this before. Maybe Dr. Mulabah was not on the air then. When we had our Susuku farms, where we're trying to teach the people that if we grow our food, it will help us to feed ourselves and make us a more independent people instead of relying on the government food. I don't know if Dr. Mulabah, if you're aware of the Susuku project that the Moja had in Grand G that was
I'm aware of everything from 1974.
Okay, Dr. Mulabah, this is my question for you. You are talking about statistics. Are you in denial that those issues of the increase in the price of rice and the suffering of the Liberian people as a result of their staple, or this price for their staple being increased, are you saying those issues did not exist and because there were no statistics, the power movement was making things up?
No, I'm saying the problem were on the ground. There were problems, but the decision to put people out there, the reason was not sufficient. No studies were made. Okay, let me just react to what he was saying. He said that people did not need data. That proves my point. That they had the information, but the people did not need the data. They didn't need to know it. They have to decide for them and tell them, you go this way, you go that way. I'm saying that if people knew, like he just said, people regretted this demonstration. If people had enough information, they would have decided for themselves. Now, if the people did not need any data from you to move in the street, couldn't they have done it on their own instead of being told? If they really didn't need any data from you and they felt the suffering, they would have done it themselves. But they look up to you for leadership. And then whatever you told them, that's what they took. You didn't give them all the stories. So they rely on what you said and what happened. Now it's a regret on everybody. So tonight, I'm just trying to prove tonight that data is important. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. My next question is: you have the government. Who bears the brunt of the problem? Who role it was to educate the people? So if the people felt that they needed to demonstrate and they needed leadership, and power provided that leadership, why is the onus on power, not the government? Who fired the shots? And who did not educate the people who created the condition for people to demonstrate? Why is the owners on power not, or the progressive and not the government?
The fiber of the Shah is an after effect. Who put the people in the street?
No.
Power. Who put the people in the street? Power. If you want to put someone in the street, you have to educate the person. People died that day. Where was power? They have to take them to the very hospital run by the government. They were criticizing. Right. So what I'm saying, the education of the people that were following the power, it was on the shoulder of the leader of the progressive PAR, because they wanted the people to do certain things.
But who's
so they had to educate the people.
Who's supposed to be responsible here
for
the killing of the people? You are saying responding with gunshot demonstration in every country, or people coming out, is part of their democratic right. What education is needed? And so if government that's supposed to be the one teaching the people, educating the people, providing schools, did not do that.
Well, you see, Brother Jai, you are going into another area. We are talking about power and the rest right now.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying.
So
people got in the street based on the information they got,
which was false.
And whose
information was not false,
but they were misled. Some of you people regretting it.
They were not misled. How could
but then why they regret now? Why people are saying it should not have been?
No, but without saying we regret, we said at the time, without saying we regretted that, we are saying that we were asking them to put it off for some time. Nobody can argue that the price of rice was going up 50%, 50% over what it was. You can't argue with that. You cannot argue with the fact that when these people were up there demonstrating, they didn't even allow the people to start a demonstration. These people were at their place on Lynch Street when the soldiers got there and started shooting. You didn't see people demonstrating through the streets of Monrovia, and then government soldiers came and tried to stop them. They started shooting these people at the headquarters. At the headquarters. Then people started running, and that's when the people spent out into the streets. If you go back, you look at, if you study, you're a mathematician. If you go in there, you study all of the factors, statistics, and the lemons that evolve in there, you will see, if you had the full information, you will know that these people were not in the street demonstrating, rioting, and breaking up stuff when the shooting started. When the shooting started. The shooting started on Lynch Street, where PAL had their headquarters, and they were organizing the people to come out. That's when the shooting started. That's when people started running, and it spread from there all the way onto Broad Street, Ashmore Street, and all these other places in Monrovia. Because once people heard of it, there were those who took advantage of the situation to start looting and start doing what they were doing, because they felt at that time that no law, no order. And PAL is not responsible for law and order. I'm not a PAL member, but I can defend that. The government is responsible for law and order. The government broke the law, they disturbed the order, and the consequences of 276 people dying minimum and thousands of people injured lies at the feet of the Liberian government of April 14, 1979.
So Mr. Freeman, my question to you is, what level of education, what level of preparedness that was needed to be provided to the people that will avoid the casualty that you just spoke about?
Well, first of all, the Liberian people were not, they never thought that their own government was going to open fire on them. The government did not warn anybody about, they didn't come out and shoot warning shots in the air and say you're dispersed here or arrest people and take them to prison. No. They started the shooting at the headquarters of PAL. That's when people started. And we're like Henny Penny, the coconut dropped somewhere, and Henny Penny started running and said the sky is falling. And people just ran, people that were not even anywhere near the demonstration site where it was supposed to start at, started doing their own thing because the soldiers and police were concentrated in other parts of Liberia. The education that Liberian people had was practical. When they went to go look for rice, there was none. And when they found it, it was supposed to be $30, but there were people selling it now for $50 or more.
Right. But you are saying You disagree with power for the rise or demonstration. You said it was not ready, the preparedness and all the things. So what level of preparedness, what level of education would have prevented the government from shooting at the people at their headquarters, according to you?
We just said that power calling for the demonstration, we disagree with, but we didn't disagree with people going out there to demonstrate and exercising their constitutional rights. We didn't disagree with that. We just said to power at the time, let's just delay this a little bit and try to see what we can do, because we're talking with the government at the time. We're trying to talk with the Liberian government at the time. They were not listening though. They were not listening. The Minister of Agriculture, I think that time was J.T. Phillips. And there was just a lot of things that.
Florence Chineway.
Pardon me?
Florence Chineway, Minister of Agriculture.
I stand corrected. But there were so many dynamics at the time that were in the Liberian society, and many of them were not good. Many of them were not good, and people don't need statistics when they're hungry. People don't need statistics when they got to walk from Sinka Oro to Freeport, or from there all the way downtown Waterside to go look for food to eat. People don't need statistics when they see so many other people around them that are in governmental power positions, living lavishly and etc. Those are the high statistics. Mathematical statistics.
Thank you. Before
statistics. Yeah.
Okay. Can I respond?
Yeah. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. We're not talking about statistics here. Let's get it right here. We are talking about decision arrived at after you got your data. The decision you provide to the people is not statistic. It's decision making that you made or what you knew. Statistics is different. You use that to arrive at decision. I'm talking about the decision you took. Now, you remember that you wanted to call off the demonstration or the riot, however you call it. You wanted to call it off.
No,
do you agree?
We just asked.
No. Let me finish. No, yeah. I'm saying that yes, there was plan to call it off, but you had this excuse, which again I'm telling you was wrong. You said you didn't have access. The progressive, not you, my brother. The progressive said they didn't have access to the two radio stations, which were ELBC and ELWA. So they wanted to call it off, but they didn't have access, so they couldn't make immediate announcement to call it off. But that's, to me, is flimsy, because you didn't have access to those two radio stations. Yeah, you had leaflet to call people to mobilize the movement. The same way you mobilize them, you had days enough to mobilize them, also to demobilize and say call it off. You see, so you hid this information from the people. You want to call it off. You didn't tell them. Then they got into the street.
No.
You people had a disagreement, but you wanted to call it off.
Let me finish.
You want to call it off. You desire to call it off. You had a disagreement. You didn't have the means, but you had a flyer. You have access to microphone all over the boroughs, everywhere. You had group everywhere, in every quarter. You have people there. They could have informed the people, do not go to demonstrate. We have changed our mind. But you give the excuse, oh, want to do because we didn't have access to the radio station.
No, I haven't even said that.
No, not you, the progressive. I've researched this before coming here. The progressive gave that excuse, and I heard it before on some talk show that was the excuse.
There are people who say that. Some of these people that talk for the progressives, they were on the fringes of some of the decisions that were made. And I was not on the decision of this one here. I was made for the demonstration.
So should the real progressive come forward then?
Let me finish. I do know that they were trying to call it off. Okay? But the people had already mobilized. But then calling that demonstration did not spark riot in Monrovia. The demonstrations were sparked. The rioting in Monrovia and the looting was sparked by the shootings. I mean, this is what I think you're failing to connect with, or you just deliberately dodging that. When they started shooting at the people in Monrovia, killing and wounding many of them, that's when people that were not even part of the demonstration joined there. People from all walks of Liberian life was in that stuff. It's not so-called or so-called progressives who are out there running around, jumping and looting and stealing. No, people took advantage of that, whether they were going to LU or Cottonwood or CWA or ETMI or wherever. Many walks of Liberian life took advantage of the situation. Many.
Thank you. Let's move on from the 79. Dr. Mulabah, you were saying that there's one area the progressive misled the people. Do you have anything else where the progressive?
Yeah, I have one more.
Yeah.
I have many more, but one important one. That's very important. They told us that there was a ship on a high sea with tons and tons of bags of pusawa there, and the price will be under $10 per bag. But the only excuse was the Togo government would not allow the ship to berth at the free port. That was all before the demonstration. Okay, and that also added, the anger and the desire to go out there, and then you saying who shot at the people. If you didn't put the people there, they would not have been shot at. You put them in the street. If you are calling off, if you are giving them enough information that some of these things were not true, the people are going to make their own decision. So that was the second point. And then after the riot, after everything, nobody heard about that ship anymore. Whether the ship vanished or what, no more ship will beg or rest less than $10. That was misleading. That was the second point, and I think that's what I have.
Mr. Freeman.
Yeah, we all heard of the ship that was offshore that the Progressive Alliance of Liberia claimed that they were able to import rice that would have been cheaper than what the government was stating. And they said that they were going to do that through it also had to be done through subsidization. And so we did not see that rice come to Liberia because they claimed that the Liberian government turned the ship away, and the ship not going to sit down there for days and days waiting for you guys to do something. They took it elsewhere. That is their explanation. I don't have any details beyond that. Neither do you. But they did claim that they had the rice offshore. The Liberian government said, no, you're not bringing our rice into Liberia. I also have heard that the rice it wasn't pusawa. It was rice that was coming from Asia. And that's why the rice was cheaper, because it was coming from Asia. It wasn't coming here from the United States, where wages and everything was much higher. And so therefore it added to the price of the rice.
And the rest was supposed to be pusawa, they were told. Now you're telling me new things.
No, I just heard rice. I'm not part of them. I just heard that they had rice that was cheaper.
Okay.
I didn't hear about pusawa.
Those are the 2 points I had.
I'm not in disagreement with what you heard. I'm just saying, what I heard, that the rice was coming from Asia, therefore it was going to be cheaper than the pusawa.
Mr. Dr. Mulabah, these things were not in a vacuum, right? And here in the United States, we saw, let's say, the George Floyd demonstration. People went in the street because they saw a policeman had a knee on the neck of somebody else, and that person died. In that case, are you saying, you need some numbers, or you need some education, or the people getting in the street, that's wrong? Where in this democracy is ever holding demonstration a bad idea?
What you just referred to was spontaneous. People reacted to something they saw. Nobody called them. But in Liberia, 1979, people were told certain things that were not true. And they acted on false premises. And they got hurt. People died. Now we found out that some of these things were false. So you see, how can you justify? You call the people. You see, when you call people and give them information, it should be based on facts. Give them all the information. Let them decide for themselves. Mm-hmm. But if you're saying that, like my brother just said a few minutes ago, that the people did not need any data. That means they didn't need any information. They already knew what to do. If the people knew what to do, they would have gone into the street of up telling them to go. Why they didn't go there until you told them? Not you, my brother. Why? No, because you gave them certain information, you provided them all this information that fired them up. So the situation with George Floyd that you just mentioned, that was spontaneous reaction. Nobody went around and gave information. People saw it.
So you think when people are hungry, there's not a spontaneous reaction to their being hungry?
Yeah, they have arrived, they're hungry, then you are going to the street long before you even talk about it.
Yeah, but when the price of rice was raised, and Pat came with the different disagreements about the price being raised and calling for the demonstration of the Liberian government was fully aware that the demonstration was going to be held on April 14 of 1979. They were fully aware. They had all of the communicative emblems. They could have gone on a counter narrative and put out there what they wanted to put out. But there were elements of the government who felt that if those people get in the street, we would deal with them. And when we deal with them, they will know who we are. They had the army on their side. And they were going to demand of that army to go out there and shoot. You cannot go past that. You don't need statistics for hunger. You don't need statistics to feed your family. You don't need statistics to open, fire on innocent people who were unarmed, fully unarmed. The spontaneous combustible reaction as a result of their opening fire on those people was looting and etc. Before then, when these people were gathered on Lynch Street, there was no looting. There was no burning or anything, no breaking of glasses anywhere. But when the shooting started, yes, let's talk you talk statistics, into the chemical term. The spontaneous combustible reaction as of that was what
causes spontaneous combustion?
Huh?
What causes spontaneous combustion in chemistry?
When you have a certain amount of energy being put into a system that is not supposed to be there, it will release that. Then you release that. You go from potential now to kinetic.
Right. So you release the kinetic energy onto the people with false information, so they went into the street.
They were not kinetic. They were not kinetic until the shooting began. That's what I'm telling you now. The kinetic began with the shootings.
No, forget about the shooting. You see, you're trying to. You see, we're not talking about rhetoric here. You see, that's why I came here. I said I'm speaking with data. I'm a data scientist, and I'm speaking for the people with respect to data. Yeah. That's why I'm happy that you're a data scientist too. So we put the rhetorics one side. All that when you're talking, we are looking at the facts. What put the people in the street? Decision from power. How did power arrive at the decision? The decision was one-sided because they did not present all the facts. So the people acted on decision that you gave them.
You tell me which facts that power omitted. Give me which facts power omitted.
Power should have said what the government intention was and let the people decide.
The government did its own intention?
No, but you trying to get the people. You were talking about the rice. So you need to tell them both sides of the story.
No, we tell them our side of the story. The government tells them.
Which was misleading because they didn't have the full story.
No. The black people are not stupid. No, the black people are not stupid. They might not have all of the so-called formal education on one side, but these people have informal and non-formal education that was enough to know. You know when you're hungry. I don't care whether you got a PhD or you never step in the classroom. You know when you're hungry. You know when you need to go buy food and how much the food costs. Nobody needs to give you statistics for that.
Before Dr. Mulabah, I want us to move away from 79.
Okay. Let's move on.
That's a long story, right?
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, before we move on, because I want us to conclude on this story, right, of giving the data or giving the narrative. So right now in Liberia, the current government wanted to increase a price, or they want to print new money. And they say, this is our reason for printing the money. And opposition is saying, no, the reason they're giving is the wrong reason. Here is the reason they're doing it. You are saying, in that case, the opposition should say, here is the government reason and here is our reason. Definitely, you will not see an opposition that will say, here is the government reason and we think our reason is wrong. So the opposition at that time provided their own narrative, what they thought. You are saying, that was misleading because they did not or promote what the government said their intention was.
Yes, if you want to inform people, and my learned brother knows, he knows. I'm happy he's in the same area as I am. If you want to present information to people to convince people to take action, you need to give everything. Whether you're opposition or you're not opposition, you need to present the facts so they make informed decision.
All right.
You don't try to massage it because you already want an outcome, so you provide the data to lead them to that outcome. That's what I'm talking about here.
Thank you. There are other things that are linked to the progressive, and even before 1979, there were activities of the progressive. What do you say? And I want Manju to tell me if the progressive did anything good at that time, or I want Dr. Mulabah to tell me if the progressive misled the Liberian people prior to the riot.
Who go first?
I think you should go first because you're challenging what the progressives are doing.
Okay, as I said,
yeah,
I became aware of the progressive, I think in 1974, when they became active. I have no statement to say that the progressive misled our generation before the riot.
Okay.
I don't have information on it. I don't base my statement on information I don't have.
Okay.
So whether they did it or not, I cannot say yes or no. I'm talking about what I know.
Right. So it's 79. Okay. Let me come to another point that people blame the progressive for the 1980 coup. That it was the progressive that their activity gave rise to the 1980 coup. Do you share that same belief or sentiment? With
me, I'm still on?
Yes.
No. I have no statement on what went beyond 1979 riot because I don't have the data. I don't have the facts.
Let me go again. I will come to you, Mr. Freeman, because the early days of the PRC government, it had elements of the progressive in power. People believe it was at that time the progressives who have brought the change that they were advocating for, and they did not do that. Will you say the progressive again falter at that point?
There's blame to go all around. Progressives, non-progressives, but there were elements of the PRC in foreign interventions. Some progressives, not all progressives, I mean, within the progressive movement, there are various levels of there. There are those who were really truly committed to what the changes they wanted in Liberia. What happened in Liberia at that time is that not only did the coup take place, but there have been many evidence that has come out since then to state that this coup here was carried out by foreign intervention, through foreign intervention, that were much more powerful than our Liberian situation we had, our small talk that we had amongst ourselves. And I think many of us are aware of that. There are historical facts and factors that have been proven since that happened in Liberia. And if Dr. Mulabah can understand, the Liberian National Students Union became very prominent after the coup. We were the first entity that dared to stand in front of that military government and tell them that, there were few countries represented in this government. Of 12 soldiers, we felt that the PRC should be extended to at least 36 and to include every county. The PRC took that suggestion on June 5th of 1980. We were the first group of people that stood there, and we were praised by many international news outlets for standing in front of the Liberian government, Samuel K. Doe standing beside us, and challenging the PRC to tell us when they were going to return to civilian rule through free and fair elections. It was the Liberian National Students Union who on March 18 of 1985 called for a demonstration I started at Camah, where I was teaching at the time. And they marched from there throughout the streets of Monrovia, and so many other students gathered and joined them. And they marched to the executive mansion. And they were everywhere. They even were at the education ministry, etc., trying to make sure that the government understood the sufferings of the Liberian people. People don't need statistics, and I'm glad you clarify that. And I'm glad you're a scientist. I think you're a practical person, and so you definitely you will come there and you will say, I'm glad too that you're a truth speaker. That what you didn't know or what you didn't understand at the time, you were not going to speak of it as though you knew about it and then attach all kinds of things to it. So I respect you for that.
Thank you.
And I love that you're that type of person, Mulabah.
And I want to still continue with Dr. Mulabah, because we want to, these things have been told over and over, so I want to get your perspective. You say the early days of the PRC, where we have progressive in government, people are saying the progressive failed to bring about the kind of change that they were advocating for. What's your take on that? And do you have a problem with the progressive when it comes to the early days of the PRC?
I have problem with progressive from the beginning to today. Okay. And what I'm saying here is, okay, the progressive, they were thrust into the position unexpectedly. They thought that this war between the TWP and them will last long and they will continue to fool us. Unfortunately for them, the coup came and then they got into positions. What did they do? They were in power. My suspicion is that when they realized they could not fulfill the aspiration of the people, then they fell out with the ruling party and they went where they performed best, in the opposition. That's why you saw the student Linsu and all of them started going again, demonstrating against the government. They perform better when they incite people, when they get people out there in the street. That's what their strength is. So they went back. They all fell off. I don't know why they fell off with the government, but if they only have 1 hour as Minister of Foreign Affairs, 1 hour as Minister of Economic Affairs, and you were a progressive, what did you do?
Well, I can answer that.
Yeah.
First of all, one of the things you got a skeleton out there, but you're not putting flesh on the bones. The progressives, they not just readily jump in that government. Those that were readily in there from the beginning were power members that were taken directly out of prison, and they got positions. If you go down to the historical facts, you will find out that the Moja members of that government, number one, there were not many. There were about 3 or 4 that were brought in later. Now, what did the PRC do? All those people that were ministers, they were made majors in the army. They were put to the rank of major. Others were given the rank of captains. Now, if you understand anything about military establishments, when you have a rank in the army and you go against what the CIC says, that can be sedition or treason in the army. That is punishable by the firing squad. So these people, I know some of the Moja people. I know some of them because we talked to them before they took their position. They took the positions with tremendous reluctance. But there were religious leaders in Liberia who asked them to step in and try to calm the ship before it went out of kilter. And so this is what happened. These people went in there. They let Bishop Brown, even Archbishop Michael Francis, they begged some of these progressives to go and take these positions to see if they could make a difference. They did not want to take those, but they took it. But once they got to those positions, the PRC, through advice from some foreign entity, was there to say, you know what, they make all of their army officers, then they are subjected to military rule. And that's what happened in there. When you're in the army, ask anybody in the army there, if you're in the army and you go against your CIC, remember Domain says CIC then. He was conferred with that position of the CIC. When he became CIC, then things started to go here and there. Right. Because then he knew he had the power of the gun to execute those who were not in line with his policies.
Thank you. And Dr. Mulabah, I want you to respond, but let me add one question there is, what were the expectations? Because people often ask the question, what did they do? What were some of the expectations that would tell you that it did something? and then you can respond to Mr. Freeman.
Okay, I'll answer all those just one. Okay, now the coup took place, the progressive, the leader of power was higher up. He had those ears, at least for a few days. Earlier, a year before, you have put the people in the street for rice, for the price of rice. Just one moment, you could not have asked the head of state to reduce the price of rice, since that's why people died. Why did they ask that?
And do you know this for a fact that he didn't ask that, or what were the conditions?
Well, I know they didn't ask, because if they really had asked, or they had taken action, they would have been anxious to bring the price of rice down and say, this is what we fought for last year. Nobody mentioned that. Nobody addressed that issue. That was gone. They had achieved what they wanted to achieve, so that was it. You see? So what I'm saying here is there was no excuse. Whether they were there for 3 months, whether they were put into the army because of order, whether they were there, they had the opportunity to do something, even if it was for 1 week. That's my take on that.
Mr. Freeman, please respond, and then we go to the next.
The thing about it, the thing about your take on that, again, you're forgetting the structure of the army. You don't go to the commander-in-chief in the army and tell him, say, we need to do this. The best thing that we were trying to do at that time was to ameliorate the situation, to bring people to the table where we could talk about civilian rule, because in the army, we knew that the regiment there was set by the commander-in-chief.
So the people no longer hungry.
If you go back there, you can find out many people right there. Many people died.
The masses were no longer hungry.
Hold on, Mr. Dr. Mulabah.
No, I'm not. People were hungry, but the thing about it too, when the PRC took power, I think you forget too that the rice and other things that flowed into Liberia, they were not as expensive. They got to drop the price by a few dollars, but rice and things that were flowing into Liberia, and then later on they started coming with the same problems as the previous government, where there were rice shortages and etc. But yeah, the price of rice dropped a little bit, and people saw it as some degree of reprieve. But the progressives could not. That junta was under control of a very strong ambassador in Liberia that you know of, and they did what they were doing over there at the behest of foreign governments.
Mr. Freeman, one question for you. I hear you saying that okay, it was PAR, not Moja. In other words, I see you saying PAR in a way was rushing things, and they are to blame. We Moja, we were better than PAR, or we were looking at things better, in a better way. The next thing that I'm hearing from you is actually we didn't want to do this. The religious leaders and everybody else begged us to do it.
No, not that we didn't want to do it. We were being more cautious when they started to ask of some of the leaders together, not just Moja, some other people too. Some of the O2 party and some people in the power too were a little bit slow because they didn't fully know what these guys were about. It was a time to be very, very cautious in Liberia, especially after April 22nd of 1980, when those people were put on the post and shot, especially on that Tuesday after the coup, when they executed those, I think 3 or 5 prisoners. I mean, guys who they said were looting and stealing and broken into stores. So you're talking about executions that were coming fast. So people had to think twice. I mean, the farther away from it you go, the farther away you go from a fire, you don't feel the heat as much. The closer you are to that fire, the heat is there. And not excusing anybody, but it was a time to be very, very cautious. That is why when the Liberian National Students Union stood up and challenged the government to do certain things on June 5th of 1980. This is 2 months, barely 2 months after the coup. When they stood there, when the army was not there in the mood for much cooperation, you had to be careful where you trod. It was a time of being very, very cautious, and they were killing people too. So none of us in Liberia can say we are blameless of all the things that happen in Liberia. What happened in Liberia? Many progressives feel that there were too few of us that were running out, that were standing up to all of the variables that were against us, and that there were too many people who decided to sit on the sideline and say, I remember going to meet Talbot as a group, and we met at the information ministry, and we said about 15 minutes to the time we'll walk across and enter the mansion grounds to go to meet the president. And I remember this lady that came, she said, Children, what y'all doing here? We said, well, Ma, we're going to the mansion and meet the president. She said, oh, you training full of all kind of things.
Right.
Going to the mansion to go meet the president during our time, who would think about going to that mansion?
Right.
Okay?
Thank you, Ms.
It was a dominant thought those days.
Dr. Mulabah, do you hold the TWP government under trouble for anything that went wrong in the country, especially leading to 85 or the 79 riot and the 1980 coup?
Well, like I said, I was aware of problems in Liberia. Okay? I was aware of problems in Liberia. The Togo government was not perfect. They had problems. But my philosophy, my thought at that time, as young as I was, that there were better ways to approach and solve the problem than the way we went with the rest riot and demonstration and all of that. That was my point here. We could have solved this problem in a better way. And the people who were leading this demonstration were highly educated.
Yeah.
So this will found better ways to solve the problem. Now we have a metamorphosed into other problem. And I do not want to say that 1979 was the cause of this, it was the cause of that, was the cause of this. But what I'm saying, that particular incident in 1979, led by educated people,
right,
should that have happened?
My next question is, the rise of demonstration was not the only issue that the progressive were pushing at that time. Do you agree with some of the other issues that they were pushing? And do you think that the Togo government was responding positively or was doing everything it could to bring about the kind of changes that were needed in the country?
What I know is they were talking about multi-party or, everybody getting involved. The little I know that President Togo was taking steps to have inclusiveness. But that's a political side of it.
Right.
That's a political side of it. And since I do not have too much leverage on that, that's all I can say. I'm speaking here from a data point of view. I'm speaking here on information dissemination that moves people. That's what I'm talking about here. Now, you see, the progressive have another chance, but I don't know if we're going to get to that. They have another chance under the IGNU government. They have another chance again. They blew it. They blew it. Every time they have an opportunity, because they were never ready for this kind of thing, they always find an excuse.
This specific.
Yeah, let's go into the Doe era and the war years. What's the issue of the progressive, Mr. Dr. Mulabah? The rest of the Doe era and then the war years, the IGNU and everything in between there.
My take on that is they had the opportunity they were seeking during the Togo government. In Togo government, they claimed they were not participating, right? Thereafter, they participated in the Doe government. They participated in other government that followed. What did they do? What did they do for the very people they were claiming to be fighting for? That's my question here. Where is the progress in their lives that you were preaching?
Thank you. Mr. Freeman.
Well, first of all, Mulabah, when someone comes to you and say, cook rice, that means that you got a rice to cook, right? You can't say you cook rice and you got no rice anywhere to cook.
I don't agree with that reasoning.
Yeah,
it's a fallacy in there.
Whatever they ask you to do, there has to be means through which to do that stuff. Now, the progressives under Talbot is one of the most progressive presidents that we've ever had.
Thank you.
A man of great ideology and great intellect. Unfortunately, his own people around him were the cause of so many of the things that happened to him. It was very, very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. There were people, including even some of his own relatives, that were so set in their ways from previous to his coming into the administration and caused that problem. That problem started when the people landed on Chevron Island and landed on Providence Island and started treating the people the way they did. The formation of the true Whig Party, years ago, the word Whig used to mean black. The true Whig Party was the true black party for the first colored black president in Liberia, E.J. Roy. That's why they had that building called E.J. Roy. Luther Jenkins, Robert Steen, Allen Benson, those people before were very, very light-skinned, educated here in the United States. They did not feel that dark-skinned people should have been in that position. That is why people tell you, historically, the first coup that took place in Liberia was the overthrow of E.J. Roy, and he was killed. And then they came out with that lie that he was swimming with bags of money. Who's stupid to put hell over bags of money on them that are metallic money and try to swim to a ship way out in the sea? This man was an educated man. He wasn't a stupid man, you know. Then there were other incidents that took place. You heard about the Sastan War. Then you came on and there were other wars there in Sino there, and then, you know, the other wars that took place. And then later on, they came, you know, these are all things that precipitated to where it was. But in 1955, the plot that failed. These were educated people who saw the same things happening with Tubman that were against the constitutions, against the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. And they went out there and they stated it and formed the independent True Whig Party. And what happened to them in 1955? Tubman made sure he eliminated them. Then in 1968-69, they went after Henry Famula Sr. Anywhere they saw a little bit of dissent. Even Talbot was a victim of so many times that he was imprisoned by Tubman, even though he was the vice president. If he had some agreement, he dare not talk about it or talk to somebody. That person turned around, went and told Tubman he spent the weekend in jail. So these are the things that you put together. You see a trend here where we had governments that came down the pathway that were not opened to criticism and etc. The government in 1979 felt that if they opened fire on the Liberian people, which had not been done before, they were going to scare these people. The people were going to run to their homes, and they were not going to come out. The opposite effect took place. We didn't have enough soldiers. We didn't have enough police. They were not trained for civilian action. That's why they thought opening fire would have been the right thing. And thereafter, if you listen to the radio, people were deliberating as to who ordered the opening of fire on the people. They came under heavy condemnations from foreign governments that the demonstration was peaceful under the open fire.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. We'll take a short break unless you have something to add to respond, Dr. Mulabah. As we take a short break, we'll
just maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, sure.
I appreciate the in-depth explanation from my brother Manju Freeman, my fellow scientist. Yeah, look, you see, opening fire on anybody by whom was wrong. But the question here still is, who put them there? How did they get there? They were misinformed. You see, so this is the same thing I keep saying over and over. So we can take a break. That's what I want to say.
All right. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll hear from our audience and what they're saying, what they think.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
The progressives of Liberia, my guest, Dr. Camah Mulabah and Mr. Manju Freeman, who's debating in favor of the progressive, and Dr. Mulabah, who's being presenting the con side of it. Let's listen to a review of our comments. This one from George K. City. There are no progressives in Liberia anymore. The progressive zeal and enthusiasm was killed when their true colors show up during the war. They have no leaders. Most of their leaders have no vision. They were not able to hold together and deliver Liberia into a progressive nation. As ANC was to South Africa, their umbrella was Moja, but when Sawyer became president, he abandoned the idea of progressive. Let me continue. John Mawolo, the police started shooting when the looting started, not the other way around.
No, that's not true.
Mr. Freeman, most Moja members welcomed the violent overthrow which led to the Civil War. Was Liberia ready for civil war, or you personally disagree with the Moja leaders? Jimmy,
Moja leaders were not the cause of the Civil War.
Okay, just these things then with data rules in today's information society. Bessie Marsha Moba, we ran in the street because we were part of soup. Our friends got killed. I think I wonder if she's referring to the 79 or anytime else. Jimmy says, can Mr. Freeman speak to the effect of subsidizing of our staple food? Did he not believe that self-sufficiency in rice production is the production will have eased some of our problems? I think that's what he's saying there. Dave just said the coup took place in 1980. The war was in 1990. How could the two events be so far apart and you claim that the coup caused the war? Mose Kpase, the killing happened between Ministries of Information and Labor. That was for the 1979 coup. Jimmy Eastburn, the government blundered and terribly mishandled the situation. PAP is not to blame. Once you allow them to establish a political party, it's a political party. They should have guaranteed their rights to demonstrate. John Maulo, the truth is that these so-called progressive, and we hear that word over and over, so-called progressive, thought they have come back home well educated and they immediately needed to replace the older guys whom they thought had been in power forever. The reality was that they were all emotionally competent, as most young people are. That was the beginning of all of Liberia's troubles. Mr. Freeman, I want you to respond to that when we come back. It's like people blame the progressive for all of Liberia's trouble. Dave just said you don't blame the people who murdered 250,000 Liberians, but you blame the ones who told you that you deserve to be treated fairly in your own country. What exactly? Real complex.
Yeah.
The progressive blamed Bacchus Murphy for giving the people the notion that he could get the price of rice under $1 a bag. People are being told lies on a bigger scale today. That's from Williet Dunbar. Sam Wallow, the progressive did in 1979 what Trump did in 16. They wound the people up. based on falsehood, like the old toy cars with the key in the back, pointed them in the direction of their leaders and let them go. And when the toy car hit the table and knocked the wine glasses into the floor, breaking it into tiny pieces, they said, "Not our fault. We didn't put the glass on the table." This one, Dave again, even if they were looting, they did not deserve to be killed. You are an apologist of the TWP that murder our people. Genius of hindsight. Camah, Mamba, even in Mr. Freeman's rebuttal, he is speaking on the emotional response and not accepting the responsibility of proper guidance. To be a leader of men, one must give the people equal choice and proper understanding so they can truly accept the responsibility of their own actions when acting knowingly. These guys, Flomo said, wanted to rule Liberia by Camah. This is why they play on the native people to carry out riot. Dave Jai again, Armstrong Jabba's Liberia's farm is selling rice $10 per bag. Imagine 1975, $9 or less was possible. The TWP was just not smart. There's one question here. There are 2 minutes. Let me read just few. Bessie Mulabah, who taught these soldiers at night? Who encouraged the soldiers? Who? I think she's speaking to the progressive teaching Doe and other soldiers at night during the night school. Dave Ja first say he has the inferior complex. He would not blame the TWP. Mulabah is contending that demonstration should be quelled with execution. What a cool soul. My last comment, there should be an exception to the impending war and economic crimes court proceedings that incorporates accountability for the progressive. They introduce a brand and culture of undermining legitimate government that help destroy the country's systems and institutions almost irreparably. Mr. Freeman, your response.
First of all, when you talk of an institution that is based on a minority that believes that those who are so-called native people should not have the rights of many of the other people that were in the government, etc. You know, this thing is not. It should never be in between country and Congo or America, Liberians and whatnot. This is between those who were in power versus those who were not in power. I always try to stress this. There were many. I was roommates with Stephen Tolbert, President Tolbert's son, one of the nicest human beings that I've ever met. And we were very, very good and close friends. I was friends with President Tolbert's daughter, Mariah Tolbert. Very, very nice and strong lady. One of the people I have the most respect for. I have relatives that are related to Tolbert. This is not Tolbert. This is not just Tolbert. It's not just Tolbert. These are things that were compounded. It's a compendium of so many things coming together that were not controlled by the people that the Liberian people elected or selected to be their leaders. We all have some degree of accountability in there. Certain things went wrong. As in many countries, the French had 3 revolutions. The last one is the one that's holding now. When the French people got in the street, and they listened to the French national anthem, Allons enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire arrive. Get up, patriots, patriots of France, the day of glory has arrived. These people were marching from Marseille, a city in southern France, all the way up to Paris. They were grabbing pickaxes and sticks and stones and whatever. And the government called them the same way they call people today. These people, they're not progressive, they're doing this and etc. And the government opened fire and started killing until they were overcome by the population of the French people. We did not have that determination in Liberia. So many young people for the progressives were killed. So many were killed. Young people in their 20s, some in their teens, some were a little bit older. Yes, we remember them. We cry for them. We remember them. Many people who sat within the safeties of their home and were comfortable, yeah, they can sit here today and put, think, oh, the progressives, they want to do that. You got to realize when we formed the Liberian People's Party as an offshoot of the Moja, we were never allowed to participate in the Liberian government, even though we pay our money in full and register all of our people in full. We were banned immediately. Immediately. This is what happened to the progressives in Liberia. Not all progressives were the same. Not everything the progressives did was right. But there were so many more responsibilities that the Liberian government had, the duly elected or selected government had, that they failed to carry out. And some people sit now here and say, they needed this, they didn't do that. When Amos got in power, Amos Sawyer was there, an interim government that was formed in the Gambia with certain things that he had to do under the mandate of an interim government. It was not an elected government that had all the powers that are set under the Constitution. An interim government is there. He was just there to guide towards elections and try to keep the peace in Liberia. Just some semblance of a government. It was not a government that wielded their power with the army and the police and everything there to keep law and order the way they needed to. So let's get our facts straight and let's get the information straight.
Thank you. Dr. Mulabah, your response to the many comments.
Well, you see, the first thing I want to say here is the past is the past. There's nothing we can do about it to correct it, the past. Okay. What we need to do now is going forward, the Liberian people need to be giving the facts. Don't put them in a situation where you have the information and you expect them to behave certain ways. That's my point here. Okay, now we are one people. You see, we do not have Congo, Liberia, tribal people, Liberia, Congo, Liberia, Bassa, Madingo, Liberia. We have one country, Republic of Liberia, and that's what we should be concerned about. Okay, we should look at the past, study what we've done wrong, and then try to move forward in a positive direction. No more rhetorics, no more putting people in the street because you have other political agenda to achieve. Okay, those people who got hurt during April 1979, April 14. No progressive went to their house to say how you're doing. Nobody had to fend for themselves.
That's not true. That's not true. That's not true.
No, I know this. If you went to hospital, it was the government hospital. Did progressive have any ambulance on the street to pick up people? No.
Progressive took people to the hospital.
Which hospital? Whose hospital?
Hold on.
Camah hospital.
Dr. Mulabah, how do you separate the government? I thought the government should be by the people. So if the government has a hospital, why is it not a public hospital?
Why I'm saying here,
issue that someone who has been shot by government police goes to JFK and you are saying, oh, progressive, why you don't have your own hospital? Why?
No, that's not what I'm saying. The people have a right.
That's the implication.
That's not the implication. The implication is, did you put anything in place? You know you're going to put people out there. Did you have anything in place just in case someone gets hurt? No.
There were many people that were treated by other people there on the street.
But hold on, Dr. Mulabah, where in the world do you have the government supposed to protect demonstrators? If the government if the government shoot at demonstrators, why are you saying the demonstrators should have their own ambulances and their own clinics and private hospitals?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying But
it's the government to do this.
No, I know for the fact that.
Why are you putting the onus on the people that are already struggling and going in the street to exercise their democratic rights?
I'm not putting the onus. I'm putting the onus on the people who put them in the street. That's what I'm saying here.
The people came in the street of their free will because they believed what they were being told. They believed in what they were being told. It still doesn't give the government the right to shoot them.
I'm not saying so. Okay, you asked me to react. So what I'm saying here is, going forward, let's be very careful on how we give information out. Let's make sure we give people the full information, the whole stuff. Let them make their own decision on their own. That's my point here. And if we Liberia, like my brother, he's a data scientist. He's good at data, all the thing. I'm a data scientist. We can help the country to put things in order. Data is everywhere. It can be used constructively if you do it rightly and you give the right advice. That's the key point I'm trying to make here. The past is the past. There's nothing we can do about it. Thank you.
And what is your advice to government? I know you advise the leader of opposition to give the facts. What is your advice to government when it comes to demonstration?
No, the government, there has a rule and regulation on how demonstrations are asked or approved. That is that is the area. My advice to the government is make use of people who are in the area of data analytics, data science, to guide you in making the proper decision. People, you have a lot of talents. A lot of people out here, they have the talent to give their services and you can advise the government, not only in terms of demonstration, but in the area of health, science, education, finance. All of these things are dependent on decision making, and the data is the backbone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you, gentlemen, so much for the time. Definitely want to have you back, not just on the progressive, but on so many other fronts, because we at Focus on Liberia, our goal here is to educate, to elevate, and promote all things Liberia. I want to thank you. Let me get your closing comments now on the topic, and let's begin with Mr. Freeman.
I think I stated this on one of your previous programs when I spoke of the late Dr. Steve Biko. And I want to put that quotation forth again. Steve Biko, as you know, was the head of the Black Consciousness movement, and he was killed, beaten brutally, broken ribs, and whatnot, and placed in the back of a pickup truck, I think, and driven for over 600 miles on a very rugged road until he died. And I think it was in 1976. But Steve Biko said, and I want this for our Liberian people, we have set out on a quest for true humanity. And somewhere over the distant horizon, we can see the glittering prize. Let us march forth, drawing strength from our common plight. In time, we shall be in a position to bestow upon Liberia, I'm putting Liberia in place of South Africa, the greatest gift possible, a more human face. Unquote.
Thank you. Dr. Mulabah.
Thank you very much, Brother Dennis Jah. And I'm very happy that I met Brother Manju Freeman. Probably I've heard about him before, and I discovered another person who, love his people. And just like you, Dennis Jah, we love our people. If we didn't love our people, we would not be here tonight. Let us stop this deception. Let us lead our people in the right direction based on the data we have. Open it up, let them make their own decision. And we're available to help in any way to make this possible so that we start a war. No more country pressing America, Liberia, this and that. That's just a thing of the past. And one Liberia, one people, one destiny. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you so much. And this Sunday, guess who's coming to Focus on Liberia? Dr. Topatna Tipote turns 80. He's going to be right here on Focus on Liberia to reflect on his own life. Yes. Dr. Tipote, the family man, the economist, and the politician. He's going to be right here on Focus on Liberia. And he's going to be talking to the people.
I'll be watching.
I want to thank all of you for watching. I want to thank all those who are watching us and even those who are going to watch later. Whether you believe the progressive are responsible for all the good things or all the bad things in the country, whether you believe that the demonstrators were wrong or right, whether you are Congo or country, Kran or Bassa, Mandingo or Gribble, we are all Liberians, and it is incumbent upon us to do our very best to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Liberia was set up as the Lone Star, that beacon of hope for all free people across the globe. And that's why the country, that little country, has fought through thick and thin and still surviving today. And it is our business as today's generation to do our best to make Liberia that beacon of hope. And that's why we end with the song that says, "We are all Liberians." That song is taking us home. Good night and God bless.
Thank you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.